Hi, Yasmina. Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join us on today's TOC webcast. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to encourage you to sign up for our free weekly TOC newsletter. I'm going to push a link to it in the group chat window, so you'll find it's a very simple one-click sign-up process, and we've received a ton of terrific feedback about the newsletter, and we'd love to get your thoughts on it as well. So let me go ahead and push that out to the chat window right now. Each month we focus on a different topical theme at TOC. In June that was retailing, and July's theme has been pricing. Today's webcast features Logos President and CEO Bob Pritchett, and I invited Bob to speak with us because I believe Logos is doing some very interesting things on the digital content pricing front. And while the rest of the industry, I would say, seems to be in a race towards zero, Bob and his company are rethinking the e-content value proposition. In fact, as I think back now, one of my favorite quotes from Bob is that Logos focuses on selling the network rather than selling the book. And Bob has a slide deck to present, but I want to encourage you to ask questions in that group chat window throughout the webcast. I'll keep my eye on it, and Bob has graciously agreed to let me interrupt him from time to time to ask attendee questions. So let's jump into this digital pricing strategies and lesson learned webcast. And as I mentioned before, Bob Pritchett is the President and CEO of Logos. Bob, I'll turn things over to you, and I want to thank you for speaking with us today.
Thanks, Joe. I'm excited to be sharing what we're doing at Logos. We're a publisher of digital books, particularly in religion and Christian reference, but I think the principles that we've encountered in pricing are really useful in lots of other fields. So I'm going to start by jumping right into what I think is the secret of profitability in digital publishing and everything else, which is to keep your income greater than your expenses. And I think that this is obvious and we all know it, but as we follow this kind of race to the bottom in digital content pricing, it seems that people are actually letting the income drop towards zero while the expenses continue to escalate and hoping to make it up in volume. So what we're doing at Logos, or Logos, we use both pronunciations, is trying to deliver real value to the customer. So the key thing for us is maintaining the value of the content and maintaining the customer's perception of that value, which is real to them. So we try to represent the content very fairly. We are upfront about what it costs us to produce the different electronic books. Some of the stuff we do is republishing of older works, and some of it is new original content. Some of it is republishing modern copyrighted books that are in print and doing electronic editions. So one of the things we've been really aggressive about is looking at different pricing options, because the market there's a lot of different customers who've got different needs and different special distinctions. So we use different messages to reach the customers. We have limited time offers. We do exclusive offers to particular customer bases or special channels. We've at different times even run kind of best price specials where we committed to the user that they were going to get the best price that would ever be available on a particular product or configuration. We've got a really innovative auction model that we call community pricing, which I'm going to go into more detail on later. And then also selling through different channels. So because we sell into higher education and to students who are taking graduate level programs, we've got an academic discount. We do Twitter and Facebook specials with unique pricing to people who are following us there, as well as special pricing to different email lists. Because the internet lets us connect to our customers and kind of build a relationship with them over time, we found it's really worthwhile investing in building those different audiences. And each of those channels has a different audience and a different kind of personality to it. So we've been selling electronic books to some of the same people for 20 years now, and that's just remarkable that anybody would be with you that long. But they are, and we've managed to help them transition their content from platform to platform, from Windows, each version of Windows, even to the Mac and mobile devices over the years. And that's built up a strong trust relationship with some of those customers. And then, of course, we have other customers who see us in a much more transactional way and are more interested in the discount or the special, and we talk to them in a different way through the other channels like Twitter or Facebook or specialized email lists.
Hey, Bob, can I ask you a question about that best price message that you mentioned here? And we use that on conferences as well within O'Reilly, but just kind of wondering, when you feature that, do you come right out and tell folks that it is the best price they're going to get and that that's pretty much guaranteed going forward?
Yeah, so we're careful about limiting our options in the future, but most of the kind of permanent best price guarantees are on unique configurations or unique specials we put together. So one year we did a Christmas special. We offered a really killer package of electronic content all together, and kind of committed that we would never put that package together again at that price. And we have. We had people who tried to buy it the next year, but we didn't offer it anymore. And again, particularly after you build trust with the customers, that's something that you can use to get a kind of a hit of sales or extra revenue. That's what it did for us at the end of that year.
Okay. We've also got an attendee question. The question is, can you describe what you found on different channels as regards to personality differences? Yeah, so, I mean, we have a lot of different customers. We sell probably, in terms of user accounts and people using our digital content, we're over 1 million different people. There's probably 100,000 of those people with whom we have a tight kind of ongoing relationship and regular repurchase. And then, the rest of the 1 million customers are people who are more transactional or kind of come and go. So the ones we have that long-term relationship with are the ones who sign up for our lists, who join our forums, who follow us in the social networks. And that's where we feel particularly we have to show them a lot of respect, which is appropriate because they're the ones who are paying our bills. And we have to show build the trust. And it's been exciting to see even in our forums how we'll have longtime users who kind of defend the company or can even explain things to other new customers why we're doing different things because they feel like they've joined the team. And they have. They're really kind of in partnership with us to build a better product. And I would think that's also a critical aspect of the direct channel that you folks have, so that you're kind of establishing that relationship with the customer rather than working through somebody else, right? Absolutely. And then, of course, there are the kind of more transactional customers where it's, what's the price today or what's the best deal. We go and present at conferences sometimes, and, there's people who are like, well, if I buy today, what's the deal? And you never hear from them again. So we have ways to address them as well and, meet their needs. Okay, terrific. Thanks. So one of the other things that we've really had a lot of success with is allowing users to self-select kind of who they are. We offer multiple price points on our bundles of product, and we'll talk about bundling more in a minute. But I like to say that users know which bear they are. In the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, there's the porridge that's too hot, and there's the porridge that's too cold, and there's the porridge that's just right. And a lot of people kind of have a mentality in a category. Well, when I buy in this category, I always buy the minimum thing I can get. Or when I buy in this category, I always buy the best because it's important to me and I want the best tools. So we have this kind of small, medium, large option. In our product configuration, it's bundled base packages, we call them. And we actually have 7 of them at different tiers. But there's really kind of the low-end group of packages, the middle range, and the upper range. And users come in and they often just, like I said, they know which bear they are. They know if they want small, medium, or large right off the bat. But what we do by having 7 of them is we have a way for you to step up to say, well, I came in at medium, but I kind of want the medium-large package. And we also have a way for people to upgrade. So somebody can start with a medium package and upgrade to the large package over time at not much different than there's a small penalty for upgrading instead of making the purchase initially, but that's it. But then on top of that, we always have an add-on option. There's always a way for a user who wants to spend more or to add value to the collection. So on our website, that might mean recommending a product in the checkout process. So you check out and it says, people who bought this also bought this later, so we'll give you an opportunity to add it to your cart, or adding on our magazine or some other component. Years ago, I heard this described as asking, do you want fries with that? If you buy the hamburger, you ask every customer if they want fries. My first experience with that was in college. I worked at the newspaper. We sold advertising in the school newspaper, and it was a black and white newspaper, but we were able to print color on 2 pages because of there was color on the front, and the way they folded the newspaper meant that you could, for no extra cost, have color on the inside 2 pages. And
we charged a crazy premium of 50% to add color to an ad, just one spot color. But after reading this Do You Want Fries with that, I instructed the sales team to ask every customer who placed an ad if they wanted to add color for the premium price. And it increased the revenue dramatically. And, of course, the 50% premium for color was 100% markup. There's no additional cost other than making sure the ad appears on that particular page. But we had a dramatic increase in profitability because it's all pure profit. So that's what we try to do with everything we're selling, is have something else that you can add on. And it's not a high-pressure thing. It's not a bait and switch. It's just a way to let the customer who wants more, is willing to spend more, to have an opportunity to add on to their purchase.
So, Bob, are you able to track at all what percentage of your customers are taking advantage of those opportunities to upgrade that really came to your site without thinking about it, but ultimately converted into a higher-priced buyer? And are those stats anything that you could share with us?
I don't have the stats off the top of my head. I do know that we track it, and we're working to improve our tracking as well. But we're always looking at which things are getting the best response rate, which extra offers get the best return. Is one of those things, too, where it comes down to your e-commerce system as well. We use an in-house e-commerce system, which means that we have to write every feature ourselves, but it gives us more control. And we're just working to add another level of instrumentation so we can see how that's going.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
So bundling is also a key thing for us. With digital goods, you don't have an incremental cost per unit. It's not like selling a physical product where you've got a high cost of goods in each sale. The next copy of a digital good doesn't cost anything in physical price. So that makes digital goods really well suited to being bundled. It's good for the user. We can offer a better value. It's good for us because it reduces the transactions. I would like to think that the friction in making a purchase is the decision to purchase. The amount of the purchase can impact the decision, but really there's just a huge amount of friction between I'm not buying and I am buying. And I think once you say I am buying, whether the price is $10 or $12 or $14 isn't this big a deal as the I'm buying or not. So for us, and what we've learned over the years, we sell about 27,000 different ebooks, but most of our revenue comes from selling things in bundles, and those bundles we found, for us, there's an optimal price point, which is where bundles generate more return. You go over several $100s, it does become a hard decision for people to buy a bundle. If you go under $50, though, you just don't get enough volume to make things work. But we found for us that, with an add-on bundle book, somewhere between $50 and $150 is a great price point where we get a lot of take-up on it. We can offer a great value for the user. And for us, we get enough transactions to make that deal work. One of the other things about bundling is that's kind of an interesting value for us has been spreading the cost of narrow products across a larger user base. So we have some products that have narrow audiences and which might be difficult to monetize just to the specific audience. And this is kind of, I don't know how universal this is, but there's sometimes something that's specialized, it's important, it's expensive, but if you just sold it to, in a way that tried to recover those costs, it'd be hard to get the money back. We sell some obscure academic resources, and they're very important and useful for the people who use them, and in particular classes in higher education, but they're not something that every consumer wants. So we worked out the price point on one of these things, and we realized we'd have to sell for $500 to recover costs with, selling 1,000 units of it. But if we just put that in every package, because there's no incremental cost to us to bundle it into every package, we could allocate something like 50 cents to every package we sold and then deliver this $500 of value to every customer, which made that bundle a much more compelling offering. And it wasn't that the audience was only 1,000. The audience was only 1,000 who'd spend $500. But if you made it available inside a bundle, a lot more people than 1,000 would get value and be able to put it to use. Not all the customers, but a lot larger percentage. So bundling's been a great way for us to kind of monetize these low-volume products that you couldn't otherwise make work in the market, or where you couldn't find enough customers to pay a high enough price. We're also working very hard to avoid being a commodity. We're differentiating the content and in many cases making new products or turning old products into new products. When you've got an ebook and that ebook is available from Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com and Kobo and on your own website, you're in a classic kind of competitive position of fighting a price war. So we want to avoid that, and one of the ways which we'll get to is going direct. But the other is building a different product. So we've been creating digital content products that don't exist anywhere else. They don't map to existing books. They're new data that we built from scratch. In some cases, we take old data and repurpose and re-edit and add value to it. But more often, we just build something new, but we don't offer that new thing through the other channels. Now, there's been outside of digital content, there's been kind of tricky ways of doing this, like the configuration of a product that Best Buy sells that they didn't let Circuit City sell. They'd build the same computer or appliance, but there'd be a model number, this model number and feature set at Best Buy, and this model number and feature set at Circuit City, and then you could say, we offer the best price on this exact model, but it's because we're the only ones with that exact model. But in digital content, you have a lot of flexibility to really make different products and build something that isn't a commodity. So that's been a key emphasis for us, is kind of avoiding that commodity.
So hey, Bob, question from the audience about buy buttons within products, basically cross-sell and upsell. Is that something you've done a lot of work with, and do you have a sense that there's a pretty good conversion rate on that sort of a practice?
We do have about half of our customers come back and might buy more content and add on to their digital library. Half the customers buy something and we generally don't hear from them again. The other half come back, and the ones who come back year after year after year and continue to add to their library. So we do try to make ways that our content introduces you to other content, so cross-linking between the books. If you follow a hyperlink to a book that you don't have, we can try to take you to a sales opportunity. And I wish we were better at that than we are, but we are working to improve that to kind of reduce it to just a couple clicks to make that purchase. We do register.
Do you have? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you have many upsell and cross-sell links, right? So if I buy book X, and you therefore know that I'm interested in that topic, do you have many links within book X that would directly take me to buy these other products?
So we're selling academic content, and it is highly hyperlinked, right? There's full of bibliographies and footnotes that link to other books. So yes, we have a lot of internal cross-sales opportunities, and we go to great lengths to light up all those hyperlinks so that you can follow them and be offered other things you'd want to buy. And that's one of the values, in fact, of our platform, is that we take the friction out of following hyperlinks and looking up bibliographic references. It makes research easier. A lot of digital content isn't interlinked. Trade books or novels might be kind of standalone. But I think if you start thinking about building digital content from scratch, you can start designing things that don't have to stand alone, that are part of a larger network of content. And that's one of my other themes, is this idea of building a network. When you're making a paper book, it's going to be sold standalone, and you can't guarantee that people have anything else or have access to anything else around it. When you're building a digital product, you can offer connections to other digital products, and you can kind of build value into that. You can even avoid repeating stuff that might appear in every book because you thought it was the only thing they'd have. So I think as people are taking print content and transitioning digital, if they're just taking the print and making a digital version, they're missing opportunities to build a more valuable network in the digital side.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I've been talking a lot about how I think in the industry we're just sort of happy with the quick print-to-e conversions, and like you said, there's just so much more of another opportunity out there for richer content and better cross-linking like you're talking about.
Right, and then that also gets away from the commodity. It becomes something that isn't for sale on the Kindle or the Nook.
Right.
So one of the other things, the lessons we learned along the way, is to sell something that no one buys. And I wish I could say that we've achieved this, but we're actually still leaving money on the table ourselves. The first exposure we had to this lesson was when we had a salesperson come running into a manager's office and say, I got a customer on the phone who asked, what's the price for everything? And we didn't know. We'd never put together a discount or a special sale price for everything. We didn't have any SKU in the system. And to do that transaction, the salesperson would have to add every single line item in our product database to an order. And it really threw us for a loop because it just never occurred to us that anyone would do that. But here we have a guy on the phone who, for whatever reason, money was no object, and he wanted to buy everything we sold. So that was a reminder that we didn't have a big enough product option. And because we're selling in bundles, of course, we can keep making bigger and bigger things. So for years we had a $1,400 product was our top bundle. The most expensive single item you could buy from us was $1,400, which we thought was crazy for digital content. I mean, you don't get anything physical except maybe a DVD or something. How do you charge $1,400 for that? And yet it was selling very well. And after we introduced it, it took a big percentage of our unit sales on the high end. So when we reconfigured our products and built new base packages, we came up with a product that had a list price of over $4,000. We said, let's just get out there and kind of sop up that high end of the market. If there's somebody who really wants everything, wants a huge library of digital content, which of course is going to be a massive spectrum of books, hundreds and hundreds of titles, but maybe there's somebody who wants that. And we sat around and we actually guessed that we would sell 30 copies a year. And I think it's funny, we didn't even print a box for this product. We instead got little leather portfolios, and we called the product Portfolio because we didn't have to order 1,000 boxes. We could just go buy the little portfolios at the office supply store, and then it would look like it was coming in a nice package. We planned to sell 30 a year was our estimate. We've now sold over 400 of these in the last 3 years. If you count the upgrades, with people upgrading from a smaller base package to this, we've sold over 1,000 of these products. So clearly we still don't have a high-end enough product. And when we reconfigure again, we'll address that with something even higher. But I think it's really a good thing to keep in mind is that if you don't have a product that's so expensive no one's ever bought it, you're probably leaving money on the table, because whether you or I would buy that product or have those resources, there's usually somebody who does, and if you can deliver value at that higher price point, then you can pick up that sale.
This ties in nicely, though, Bob, with it was a post, I think, on Gallicat that I read today, put up over the weekend, talking about how there was like 7 common reasons for piracy, and of those 7 that were listed, high prices were typically a common thread, like a student saying the textbooks are too expensive, so I'm going to go ahead and steal the digital version, or I've already bought the print version and I think I should get the ebook for free, those kinds of things. So you're taking a completely opposite end look at this, and I'm just wondering, because you are pushing the boundaries here with some of these high-end products, do you feel like piracy is a problem for you more so than maybe other publishers out there?
Well, I think piracy is an issue for everyone, and we certainly have it in our space. It kind of goes both ways. We sell to Christian pastors, and some of them take an attitude of, well, I have to be particularly scrupulous and honest because it fits my moral values. And others take the opposite position and say, well, they're selling stuff about the Bible, and that should be free. It's not commercial. It's religious, and so it's perfectly okay to steal it or to pirate it because it shouldn't be sold. So we've certainly seen that in our space. What we've tried to do, though, is to build up a trust base with the customers and to offer real value. So even our high-end package, that portfolio package that retails for over $4,000, it's a great value. It's worth it. It's worth a lot more than that. And then we use things like community pricing, which I'll talk about at the end of the slides, to offer things at very low prices. And by having that full spectrum of pricing and kind of having some transparency into how and why we price things, I think we built a trust with the customers that we're not gouging them, that when we have an opportunity to give them something at a low price, we give them the item at the low price. I think of Costco a lot, which is really an impressive company, and Costco sells at a fixed margin over their cost. So they've got some products there that I might not be price sensitive on. Maybe they could go to a 20 or 30% margin instead of their normal 5%, and I wouldn't notice. I'd still feel like it was a good deal because I don't know how much mayonnaise should be in 5-gallon jars. But by sticking to that and kind of building a trust relationship where occasionally you see things that are even lower priced than you thought, you feel like you can trust that you're not getting gouged. And that's what we've been trying to build up with our customers. And that's, I think, ultimately the best defense against piracy is delivering real value and building a relationship with people. And then there's technical things as well. Being more cloud-based makes piracy more difficult in some ways.
Right. As I read through that Gallicat piece, and I want to thank Rich Daly for posting the link to it in the group chat window, I kept thinking about one of the solutions, I think, for piracy is to offer content at a reasonable price in convenient formats, and I think that's basically what you're talking about here. We do have another audience question. Carol would like to know, what do you think about giving away content as a way to bring in new customers, and do you think free, does that not lead to sales as well as sales of high-end products?
So my position in the past was that free wasn't worth it. That free, what it did is it flushed out people who were willing to pay nothing, and those people had nothing to do with people who were willing to buy a good product. So we tried a lot of free trial and freemium type stuff years ago and had very low conversion rates. I think that the mobile app economy and some things are changing that a little bit. So we do give away if you download our iPhone app, you get a few books for free. If you register, you get 31 more books for free. And then, of course, you can buy on our website even more books that will work with that. We have seen great conversion rates. I think we have over 60% conversion to giving an account and getting the 31 free books. And then we have a small conversion rate of people who come back and buy, maybe even a $600 base package to work with that. And that's now generating significant revenue. I wouldn't give up that revenue, but it's nothing like the revenue we get from people who are intentional about buying a valuable product. So I'm still a believer in building a product that's worth something, telling people it's worth something, and holding on to that value.
Right. Okay. Great. Thanks.
So, and one of the ways we were able to do that is by going direct. We used to sell through resellers. We sold through physical bookstores, through online web discounting resellers, things like that. But over 3 years ago, we decided to go completely direct because we were just seeing that the customers were coming to us over the web that way, and the non-direct sales always had some direct interaction. People would look it up on the web and then go to the store, or they'd look it up on our website and then go try to find some discounter online. And that discounter online was particularly the most damaging thing. They do all the research at our site, and then somebody have a website with nothing but product names and prices at 10% over wholesale or something, and people would be buying there. So by going direct, we can control the pricing, control access to the product, of course. So by having something that is always sold directly, we're able to offer better customer service by maintaining your purchase records in the cloud. So we've been able to restore purchases to people whose laptops were destroyed or lost access for whatever reason, and have control over the margin. And in fact, you can reduce that margin because you don't have the situation where you've got a reseller in the middle that has to get fantastic wholesale pricing and trying to balance what you're giving them with charging more to the people who are buying direct. We've been able to to keep our overall margin better while offering better value to the customer because we're not sharing that with as many people in the value chain. One of the other things that's worked really well for us, and this just has a lot to do, I think, with our fantastic sales and marketing team, is picking up the crumbs. I don't know any better way to describe it. Because we have these multiple pricing options and multiple channels, there's a lot of stuff that can fall through the cracks. You offer a great price on a product when it's first introduced, or we'll talk in a minute about our pre-publication thing. Well, there's users who kind of only join you years down the road, and they missed out on that opportunity for that great price. So we do things like offering old sales terms to new customers, but not in a way that violates the promises we made to the existing customers. So if we gave a customer years ago a one-time chance to get in on this product early at a discounted price, if somebody's completely new to us, they might get an emailed offer that's on similar terms or discounted terms because they weren't with us years ago when we first had that price. But we don't go back and reduce the price on our website to something dramatically lower than what we said was the best price in the past. Bundling poor sellers. So again, with the low per copy duplication cost in digital goods, you can take stuff that wasn't doing well and put it at a super low price or bundle it together. We've all read about how kind of not so good novels are finding revenue at 99 cents on the Kindle because there's people who are like, well, I'm willing to read something that's less than great literature if it fills the time on this airplane ride or whatever, and it only costs 99 cents. We're doing that kind of thing, but doing it by bundling it and saying, here are some older books, or here's some public domain content, or here's some content that wasn't widely popular, but we're going to bundle, a whole bunch of it together into this collection at a reasonable price point, but it's a great value per book. Not every customer buys books by the pound. Some customers only buy really good books. We've had customers, though, who, if you get the price per book down to $1, will buy anything. They'll just kind of build up their library at, 100 or 200 books at a time if the price per book is $1. So, again, not every customer is interested in that, but the customers who are generating revenue for us with things that we weren't selling so well.
And then one thing that jumps out at me in this, Bob, I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is now the second time I've seen this, and I wanted to point it out, is I think everybody, of course, is familiar with the phenomenon of the long tail, but I think we all are, for the most part, guilty of just passively taking advantage of it. It's the backlist, and the book's out there, so we'll see if it sells. You're being pretty, I think, proactive with it and really working the long tail, if you will. And that's kind of an eye-opener, just because there are so many benefits and so many opportunities to create these virtual bundles you're talking about, which you really couldn't do in the physical world just because of logistics, right?
Exactly. And I think that a lot of long tail offerings are about, we have the whole long tail, and so we hope to make a little money by you coming and buying this, this old album that nobody listens to and being the one customer who does. But what about the person who you could just sell 500 hours of music to for $50, right, of a whole bunch of stuff out of that long tail. And that's, yes, we're very aggressive about trying to monetize all the stuff that we have to offer. And, it's often at different price points. And then just one of the things that's also worked well for us is giving away the product instead of money. I'm just amazed at how many people their default customer service behavior is a discount or a refund or something like that. We can and do that. We have fantastic customer service. But oftentimes you can give away product. And again, with digital goods, you don't have physical cost in that. So, if somebody purchases something for $100 and they have some issue, we don't offer them a $50 refund. The first thing we offer is a $50 credit on future purchase or some other product for free. And we generally have very high rate of happiness with that from the customers, and again, protects our ability to keep cash coming in the door. So the last kind of point of lessons learned in pricing is that we have to respect the customer. I mean, for all the things we do to try to maximize revenue and keep the business going, we have a huge amount of respect and appreciation for the customer base, and we treat them with great respect. And every decision we make in marketing goes through this filter of, is this in keeping with what we promised them, with what we said, with doing the right thing for the customer? Like I said, we've been selling digital content to the same individuals for 20 years, which I think, there's very few companies that have had that kind of track record. I mean, ebooks are more like a 10-year phenomena, but except in our space of Bible software. And we have really gone out of our way to build a strong trust relationship. It's particularly important in the days of the Internet because customers have perfect information. They know everything that's happening thanks to the Internet. There's no secret really you can have with one customer. You can send a private email to a customer and somebody comes and posts it on a web forum. So because of that, you can't do a lot of things you could in other models. And I hear about sites like, that are constantly, let's say, tweaking their prices or trying different stuff. And, once you get to a certain massive customer base, even that stuff gets revealed. There's, sites that watch prices on sites and report the differences, like the airline fare trackers. So we have really focused on doing the right thing for the customer, and ultimately that's what's paid off for us.
I have a question back on your discussion about
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I was about to move on.
Well, a question back on the bundling. This is from Katie in the audience. She just wanted to know, how do you calculate the author's royalty in a bundle for those long-tail titles? I'm assuming that they're prorated against the value of the other titles, but if you could maybe...
Absolutely. We have in all of our contracts a prorating formula. And we have some publishers or authors who won't go for that and insist on being sold standalone, and in that case we do. But, I've got all kinds of fun anecdotes about, publishers who insisted we remove them from the bundle and then a year later begged to be put back into the bundles because we're selling such higher volume. We sell something like 100 times the volume in a bundle that we do in a standalone. So
wow.
even with a 90% discount, there's a 10 times improvement for, in revenue for being in a bundle.
Yep.
And that's been very successful for us.
Great, thanks.
So I'm going to talk about two of our kind of more creative pricing things and end with that. And then the first is where we have kind of reversed the sales model, taking advantage, again, of how you can do things differently on the Internet if you have a direct relationship with a customer. I mean, the kind of traditional business model for any product is you design your products, you build your products, you create your marketing, and then you take it to the customers. And that's why business can be capital intensive, because you have to have all the production costs up front, and it's speculative to build a product. So we wanted to remove all of the risk from building a product. And we kind of stumbled into this process that we call pre-publication sales. It's a workflow where we launch the product, we take orders, we cover all of our costs, then we start production, then we ship the product and charge the customer. I'd like to say we were clever, but really we got into this through an internal fight. We had a project that one of our key employees wanted to do that was a huge risk for us. It was going to cost $100,000 to produce, which at the time for us was, a company killing amount of money if it was a wrong bet. And so I was the person who thought the product wasn't going to make it. And I said, we just can't take that kind of risk with that amount of money. And they said, well, what if I could get customers to promise they were going to buy it? And I said, well, everyone will promise you, but, that's not the same as actually buying. So the other guy says, well, what if I could get the customers to promise they'd buy it and put their credit cards on file and commit to it? And I was like, well, if you can get enough credit cards committed on file to buy this product before we spend any money on it, then we'll go ahead. And we did, remarkably. We put it up on a website and collected the pre-orders. And then over time, we've kind of formalized that system. And now it's a way that most of our new products go out the door that removes a lot of risk and also improves our cash flow. We start by posting a product. We come up with an idea for a product, a book we want to publish or distribute or redo digitally. We put it up on our website. We put a price like $34.95 on it, which we say is a discount off the $50 price. So about 30% discount off what we expect will be the final price. And we gather interest from the customers. Somewhere around 20-25% of the interest gathered, and we actually show this thermometer to the customers. We raise the price. So if you get in really early, there's kind of a reward of that 30% discount. Then the discount drops more to 20%, and we continue to collect interest. And at the very end, we announce to people that, it's looking highly likely, and there's still a chance to get a 10% discount, and the price goes up here to $44.95 while it's under development. And then once we ship it, the day the product's finished, we get to press a button. All the credit cards for all those pre-orders are charged at $34 or $39 or $44. And then after that, it goes to the list price. And that's kind of our best price commitment to the customers, which is really, over the years, our customer base has learned that the earlier you place your pre-pub order, the better a price you get. And we let them cancel the order and found that isn't a negative. Very few people cancel the order, and we can afford the ones who do. But it really has a lot of neat benefits. It creates a sense of urgency. It creates focus around a particular product launch. And it really improves cash flow because we have a very narrow window in which we have to pay the money to build a product before we collect the revenue from shipping it. And then after that, we've collected all the money we need to on it, and the sales after that, we only have to pay royalties or have incremental costs. So I have some slides on actual data from doing this pre-publication program. The first one's a reference book, and a reference book is kind of a, ongoing good seller. So you can see here in this chart, there's two colors in the lines. The blue line is pre-orders, and the red line is after it's shipped. So we send out an initial email, we get a spike, and then it just kind of angles up. And then when you get to the green production mark, that's when we announced that it was kind of in the last phase, and it really was going to happen, but it was your last chance to get the discount. You see we had a huge jump in orders up to the ship date. And at the ship date, actually after it shipped, we still sold a bunch, and then it starts to level off over time. But that product has continued to sell, and basically it's making money everywhere after that. We covered our costs during the blue line, and it starts making money in the red line. What's particularly interesting about this is this other book. This one is not a reference book. It's more like what I'd call a coffee table book. And here you see the same kind of jumps from sending out the email and announcing it's going into production. But after we shipped it, the product kind of flatlined. There was interest in it. We could get people excited about buying it, but it wasn't the kind of thing that just kind of organically sold on its own. But without the pre-pub program, it would have been a really long, slow time to recover costs if we just built the product and put it for sale. So this forced urgency of the pre-publication sales model really drives the sales. It creates this kind of buy now mentality that's been good for us and good for the customers, because our best customers pay 30% less than the normal price regularly for what they produce.
So, Bob, do you reserve the right, and have you ever had to cancel one of these projects because the pre-publication interest has been too low?
Absolutely. We've had a number of projects that were canceled. We left them on pre-pub sometimes for over a year, and we just couldn't get enough interest, and that told us something really important about the market. In one case, we took a product off after it had been up for a year, and then 2 years later, our customer base had grown, and we had users clamoring for us to put it back, and we did, and it made it that second time. But from a cash flow point of view, it was really good for us. That was another $100,000 project. It's really good that we didn't do it in the beginning, because it would have used up a lot of our precious cash at a time we couldn't afford it. But we were able to come back and run that program again later. And then, of course, because the customers have seen that a product can come off, in that case, the people who wanted it very badly. They actually became part of our marketing team. They went out and, posted on internet lists and, wrote blog posts and encouraged other people to buy the product so that it would go into production, because they really wanted access to it.
Yeah, this seems to have, and you kind of touched on this, but two separate distinct benefits. One is sort of this pre-pub buzz, which kind of feeds on itself and helps to promote the product before it's ever even out. But the second one intrigues me as well. And would you go so far as to say that if you implement this across your list, you can avoid ever publishing a book that doesn't earn a profit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this might be difficult to adapt to every category or every business. It works for us because we have this direct relationship with the customers. But generally, we don't produce anything that doesn't make a profit. Now we're starting to do some things that are speculative, and occasionally we'll actually run a pre-pub where we intentionally don't cover 100% of the cost, but it's a reference book, and we feel like confident that over a few years, we'll be able to recover that. Occasionally there's something strategic worth doing, although I like to think the word strategic is code for losing money. But sometimes you can afford to lose some money for a time if it really is important to have in your product offering.
Okay, a couple of questions from the audience. First one, do you have a satisfaction guarantee, and do you offer a partial refund on physical products that are part of a bundle? I'll let you answer that, and I'll come back with the follow-up.
Yes, so we do have a money-back guarantee. Like I said, we're a first-class customer service organization. We want a 100% happy customer base. And because it's digital goods, we don't really, we don't have to worry that you broke the product. So we can actually relock digital books if you want to return them, and we do. And we offer refunds really without any hassle or problem. And we don't have many physical goods at all. There's a couple things we sell physically, but generally the bundles are of digital goods, so we don't have an issue about getting them back as part of a return.
So, but part of a bundle, so maybe it's a 5-book bundle and I don't like one of them, will you issue a refund on 1/5 of that bundle?
No, we generally do refunds on the actual item that you purchased. So if you bought the bundle, we will refund the bundle. And the whole point of bundles is often that you don't like something in it. That's why it's a great deal.
Right, okay. The other question we have from the audience is, do you think this approach works if you don't have much of a list or are just starting out?
Well, I think it's a great way to start out, because if you think about it, this is really, since we've been doing this for 14 years, but now it's the model of Kickstarter, right? It's the model of Threadless. Threadless puts T-shirt designs up and takes, people have to commit to that design, then they only print as many T-shirts as they need to with that particular design, and then never do it again. Kickstarter is people starting from scratch. And, we've all read recently about the fantastic successes on Kickstarter. It's essentially the same model, only we're just doing it in our product line as opposed to Kickstarter doing it to, get your album recorded or make your movie. But, yeah, people have started completely from scratch there. I signed up for a movie on Kickstarter. I can't wait to get my DVD. And in fact, it's
Great.
not a new model. I mean, I found this actually searching in the Library of Congress. This is a scan of a page that was found in Thomas Jefferson's papers. It's from 1790, and it is a proposal to print an account of a guy's travels. The guy wrote his book of travels, but, you know, back in the days of hand-set type, you had to be, you know, because you had to break down the type and reuse it to print the next page, you needed to know how many copies you were going to sell, right? Because if you only printed 200 copies and somebody wanted the 201st, you'd have to reset the entire book again and manually in type. So it was really important to know that. And there's, got to find the phrase here. It says the guy puts out his expected page count and format and says whenever names are obtained for 200 copies, the work shall be put to press. So like I said, it's not a new model. It's a pretty classic one, but we got away from it in our 20th century days of, you know, cheap mass production.
So Kickstarter was basically started by Thomas Jefferson then, right?
And by his contemporaries, yeah, putting their books to subscription. Yeah. And in fact, what they called it was a subscription. You subscribe to the book. So I talked earlier about the importance of building a trust relationship with the customers and, you know, using that to fight piracy as well. We have some content that we know is lower value. You know, we're republishing public domain content that might be 100 to 200 years old. There's a narrow audience for it or an audience at a certain price point. So we put together this program that we call community pricing. And community pricing is a way for us to deal with an unknowable price-demand curve. You know, there's always a price-demand curve. You know, at $1, so many people will buy a product. At $100, fewer people will buy it. And if you multiply the number of people by the price point, you've got this kind of, you know, how much revenue you're going to make on this curve. No one knows what the curve is till after the fact. So you make guesses. You say, I'll put this product out at $50 and hopefully I'll sell 1,000 copies. What we're doing with community pricing is letting the customers tell us what that curve is. So if we have a project that's going to cost $10,000, again, there's no per copy costs with digital goods, right? So other than, you know, transaction overhead and customer service, it doesn't cost us a lot more to sell 1,000 of those than to sell 10 of them. You know, it's digital good. But we don't know where the price demand curve is on this particular product. So we could sell 1,000 copies for $10 and make $10,000, or we could sell 100 copies for $100 or 10 copies for $1,000. It's still the same top-line revenue to us and essentially the same profit. So we built this program called Community Pricing, which is kind of a fun thing that we don't do for every title, but we do for ones where we just want to get the product produced or where the customers want it and we're not sure what the market is. And we let the customers tell us what the curve looks like. So we actually show this graph without the numbers to the customer. And this is an actual graph for an actual product that we put out there. We offered the product for anywhere from $60 to $200. It was a pretty major reference work that had not been digitized in 100 years. It was an academic reference work that had a lot of Greek and exotic typesetting. And we found out how many people would pay $60, $70, $80, $90, $100. And if you look at this, there's some pretty steep cliffs, right? At somewhere around $100, we would maximize our revenue. But if you raise the price just $10 to $110, you'd lose so many sales that your revenue would drop by 20 grand. And there was still a lot of people who pay $150, which would give you, you know, $70,000 in revenue. But at $160, there was another cliff where psychologically so many customers would drop out that your revenue would drop all the way to $20,000. So the commitment we make to the users with our community pricing model, and you can see this live on our website, is that we will give, if you'll tell us honestly the maximum you would pay, we will not charge the highest revenue point. We will charge the lowest revenue point, the lowest price point that would cover our costs. So our costs are the red line at $100,000 on this graph. At $60, we wouldn't make 100 grand. At 70, we would. So whether you bid 70, 80, 100, 150, 200, whatever your bid was, when we put this product out, we will charge everyone the $70 price, which is the lowest price that will cover our costs. And you see, we'll actually make some money there because our costs are $100,000, and we'll make about $110 if we charge $70 for it. And this has been really popular with our users. It took a long time for them to understand it. We had a couple of years where it got low use. But as we built this up and built a reputation, we've now sold many, many projects over this. And it's a fun thing because the users get to have influence on the price. And as we near the closing of one of these programs, they start lobbying each other to bid or to help reduce the price, because the more people who are in, the lower the price goes. And it's allowed users to buy products in some cases as low as $2. I think that's the lowest price we've ever let something go for. But we once sold thousands and thousands of units at something at $2 that was a tremendous value to the customers. We have that. I'll put the links on the screen here too. You can see our prepub program live at logos.com/prepub, and the community pricing link will take you to that price demand curve where you can actually see those graphs live, and there's a video overview that kind of re-explains it in other terms.
And I pushed that community pricing link out into the group chat window. We've got a couple of questions from the audience. First of all, how do your contracts with authors differ as a result of this prepub program?
We have to explain it to them, but it's been very successful. Sometimes we're relicensing for publishers, sometimes going direct to authors. Generally, we write the contract, so that we get the contract in advance, so it's taken care of, but we reserve the right to only produce the product if we can cover our costs on it. In other cases, we've used it to get a contract we couldn't have gotten. We had one publisher who wouldn't license something to us because they didn't think it was worth their trouble, that we couldn't sell enough units. So we said, well, what's the minimum amount of revenue that this would be worth to be worth your trouble? And when they told us the revenue that, would make it worth drafting a contract, and we, had an email agreement to allow us to put it on prepub, and then they agreed to sign the contract if we hit the revenue target, which we did. You think about it, even for authors, as crazy as it sounds, because generally, authors are often writing the thing they want to write anyways. But, if you've got a reputation or you build a relationship, you could even go out and say, we're going to write this particular thing or build this particular resource based on the demand in the market. Or, here's 3 projects. What should I work on first?
Right. Okay. The other question we have from the audience is, how do you decide which products will be developed in this prepub program?
Right now, almost everything goes through the prepub program. There's a few things that we do that we think are strategically really important or kind of core parts of our network of content. But right now, we run almost everything through the prepub program. It's just really successful at creating focus. Like I said, it kind of, for each product, it gives it a time of attention where you feel like, I need to decide now if I want to buy this. If you just throw thousands of things up on a website, then there's this feeling that I could come back any day if I ever need one of those things and browse around and find it. If you put one of these prepub things up, it focuses attention. I have to decide now if I want this because I'm going to get the best price today.
Right. Terrific. Thanks.
So that's the end of my slides. I'm happy to take any other questions. But
okay. We'll leave the chat window open here for a moment. But Bob, I want to thank you for sharing basically the thought process that you go through within Logos, and especially some of the really interesting approaches you've taken to pricing. And as you've said a couple times in this discussion, and we've mentioned a lot through TOC, it's so important for us to be establishing direct channels, because almost everything that you talked about today is only there because you have a direct channel capability, right?
Right. It'd be difficult to do a lot of these things if you didn't have a direct relationship with the customers, and of course, I keep emphasizing building that trust with the customers as well.
Yeah, and the other part of that too, I think that's often overlooked is when we talk about direct channels, I think people typically just think of, you want to capture 100% of the revenue. And it's like, well, yeah, that's certainly a benefit of doing so. But one of the things that we've seen at O'Reilly, and I suspect you have too within Logos, is that by having that direct channel, you're able to gather a lot of data about your customers, which then you can use to maybe upsell, but also create better targeted products in the future, right?
Sure, we actually can hear what the customers are saying and what they want. I mean, I always think it's kind of a tragedy in the traditional book distribution model where, the publisher sends the book over the wall to Ingram, and Ingram sends it over the wall to a retailer, and the retailer sells it to somebody who walks into the store and walks out without leaving their name. There's no feedback loop.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to bring that up again because it's come up a lot within TOC, and I think so many of the great things that you're doing are the result of that. And also, we've done some posts on our Radar blog about what we've learned from our customers, whether that's preferred formats or devices and so forth. So, again, there's a lot of other benefits to having a direct channel besides just the revenue itself. So we don't have any other questions from the audience, Bob, and we're pretty much at the top of the hour. So, again, I just wanted to thank you very much for sharing all this with us today, and we look forward to checking back with you from time to time to see how these experiments are going.
Great. Thank you.